Hi, welcome to Car and Mechanical and welcome to week 5 of my top eBay car picks. So we're going to change the format this week as I mentioned end of last week, and we're going to recap a couple of the finished cars to see what they ended for and what kind of predictions I put on pricing. And what we do in these videos is we're looking at sort of interesting cars on eBay that are fun, potential investments, good to drive, or dodgy listings and ones to avoid. So jumping into one we looked at last week, we looked at this BMW Z3 and I mentioned I thought that would go for about 2,000. That was a bit off at 2,000 and you can never tell what the reserve's going to be, and the reserve for this one was higher than it went for. I'm guessing the reserve was between 2,500 and 3,000. If it's much more than 3,000 I think they're having a bit of a joke, but that one's been relisted and that didn't finish. The next one we're going to look at is this classic Mini that I bought up when I was looking at a different Mini that was in bits and pieces. It said it was a rare model, but it clearly needed welding and lots of attention. This has got a nicer body. The thing I did notice on this in second viewing is I said it had an MOT, it didn't. Getting my years mixed up, the MOT is expired, but this one was being used up until the point it expired, so unsure what needs sorting on it, but it looks tidy enough compared to the other one. And I think at the point I watched this last week it was about £700. This ended for £1,360. Needs a little bit of work there, but this is one of the better prices I've seen a Mini end for, so a bit of a mixed bag really. It didn't end for more than a couple of thousand, so on the other one I think it probably was overpriced. Okay, and if we go back a couple more weeks to that Zonda we looked at, so this was a Zonda R kit car. This has been featured in various media outlets before. It's been on the news, it's been on various car websites, and this is a scratch build Zonda R replica. It's got a twin turbo Audi engine and it's got quite a few bits and pieces in it that probably makes the 3,500 or 3,600 winning bid there relatively worth it. Now, lots of people look at it and think there's different things they could do. Be interested to see if we ever see this car crop back up and get used again. And the last one we'll recap on from a few weeks back as well was this Lotus Eclat, and I mentioned that Lotuses were kind of a good buy. That ended for a little bit more than I expected, but it's also a bit of a better example than other ones I've looked at before that have ended for about 1,000 or so. So this needs a bit of work to get it back on the road, but it's quite a nice example. And potentially I think that will probably pay off for whoever gets that up and running and gets to enjoy it again. Okay, so going into the top picks of this week, we're just going to do 5 cars, and the first one I found when looking for a different car, but it was too good not to include. I'm really interested to see what this finishes for. So this is an EF Honda Civic. For some reason it says dual carb. I thought that these had some form of EFI on them, perhaps it's been modified, and the first picture is not a great one, which is perhaps why the price is so good on it at the moment. So the Honda Civic EF, they were about 850 kilos, and then this is a 1.4, it's about 66 horsepower. That's actually not a bad power to weight ratio. The Honda Jazz I've got, or my wife's got, is 987 kilos with 82 horsepower, and this has got a better power to weight ratio than it. And of course it's a Honda, so you can swap anything you want into it. You can put a B series into it and this will go like stink. So this is mostly relatively clean. It looks like it could use a new bumper, it looks like it could use a little bit of TLC, but I didn't think that this was badly priced. And if this ends under sort of £700, or if it maybe even under £1,000, believe it or not, it's probably not a bad buy. So it'd be interesting to see what this does in a couple of days time. Okay, so the second car, a couple of things on this. This is a car that I think will be a good investment down the line. And when you're looking for cars on eBay, when people list things badly, it's your opportunity to get a bargain. So yes, it is a Land Rover. This is a Series 3, but they've listed it as a 109, so that refers to the wheelbase of it. So it's 109 inches long. Now, this looks quite good. If we have a look around it, Land Rovers always need bits replacing. They've always got rust, so you take that on with that in mind. But this is one of the more reasonable ones I've seen in recent listings. And for some reason I've shown you a V5 with no details to confirm that it's actually the car itself. So this has been listed that I think they bought it for the spares that came with it. I think it might come with an engine or not, but that's not too important because Land Rover engines aren't that expensive. Now, what I think is happening with Land Rovers, I think you're going to see their prices going up, and the reason for that is they don't make them anymore. They've stopped using this kind of chassis style, and being the classic cars, you've got a number of benefits to them. So they are tax free if they're older than 40 years in the UK. They probably cost something like £100 a year to insure. With Land Rovers, there's so many cheap spares around there. I've seen bulkheads and I've seen panels and I've seen roofs and all sorts go for just £20 each. So if you've got the means to go and collect them, you can actually restore a Land Rover fairly cheaply. And they're utility vehicles as well. And if I had the space for one, I'd be interested in it. My wife can sort of breathe easy that she doesn't have some old truck on the driveway at the moment. So see what happens down the line. But I think that these are a good investment because of, as there's less on the road and as they are now no longer making them, I think we're going to see the prices of these continue to go up. Okay, the third car. This is a car that falls under Bangonomics. So this is an Audi A8. This is a car that when it came out was probably between £40,000 and £60,000, and at the moment it's under £1,000. So this has got the 4.2 litre V8. I think they're about 300 horsepower. And if you were buying this, especially because you're buying it from a dealer, you could probably get that with a year's MOT. So because you'd be buying this from a dealer, if you could get them to extend the MOT on it for a year, and if the car is reliable, you could have a year in a V8 Audi with Quattro. It'll be nice and comfortable. It'll be relatively brisk. These older A8s aren't too heavy. I think my A4 is probably heavier than this A8, to be honest. And I think if you were to take it in somewhere to get it straight piped, you'd have quite a wonderful sound. And you know, it's just something quite cheap to enjoy. If it breaks down, it's £1,000, you throw it away. If it keeps going, keep enjoying it, do the minor repairs that it may need, and enjoy the car. Okay, and the fourth car is the Honda Civic Type R. This was actually the first car I was looking at for this week's video. I've noticed the price of these are fairly reasonable, and I don't know if they're starting to creep up or not, but they're a 1200 kilogram car. You've got Japanese build quality and Japanese reliability with these, and they're 200 horsepower. They're going to be fairly quick, they're a lot of fun, and I think these are quite a bargain buy at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if these do go back up in value. I think they were quite popular, but I think that if you were looking I think these are probably a better buy than the EG and the EKs, just for what you get as a package. And you wouldn't really have to do much to these. You could just enjoy the car as is, or you know, you could start tuning the suspension and everything. But they're 200 horsepower as it is. They're pretty decent power to weight ratios. I think that these are quite the bargain buy. I see these between £1,000 and £2,000. I think it's one of them. This one here has got an MOT until November. I think it's one of them that if you can afford one and you're looking for a hot hatch, I think they're probably not a bad way to spend your money. And for car number 5, let's look at something that's interesting because it's boring. So why do I mention this? I don't actually like these cars. An ex-partner used to have one and it was a terrible car. But what I do know about these cars is that they are getting rarer. So in the listing, we'll jump across in a minute to show the details on it. It's got 51,000 miles. And as cars get rarer, they start to go up in price. Now, this particular one's fairly clean. Has a little bit of rust that needs to be sorted on one of the arches. You might have it on both sides because you can't really see from the picture angles. So you can see this arch here's got a bit of an issue. If that car works and drives fine, that's probably one that's worth sticking in the barn and it will go up in value. Now, the reason I say I think it's going to go up in value, a friend of mine's dad bought a Metro recently for £1,300 because it was a low mileage special edition. And if people are actually trading them for that price at the moment, they're going to definitely go up in a couple more years. Okay, I've blown this bit up here because they've got their phone number plastered all over it, and typically I try not to put phone numbers on the screen unless it's a dealer or unless it looks like something that would be good for someone to buy, but this is a private sale. So this gives you the information on the car. Be very interested to see what these do over the next couple of years. So it'll be one to revisit potentially if I'm still making these videos, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. But I potentially think that will easily go up by 3 to 4 times in value within the next 5 years. Okay guys, that's it for this week's picks. If you liked the video, please remember to subscribe to the channel. Leave any comments and feedback in the comment section down below. And more than anything, thank you for watching.